What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back to a new review. For today I have the latest 3-axis gimbal from Yi, and this one is called the Yi Action Gimbal. So you can find this one for about $200, and aside from looking super cool, it's also very useful. This is advertised as a gimbal that works only with the Yi Action camera, so you can use this with the Yi Discovery, with the Yi Lite, the Yi 4K and the Yi 4K Plus. But in reality you can use this gimbal with a whole bunch of other action cameras. Now I know that because I have a whole bunch of other action cameras here and I tried a whole bunch of them, but I'm sure they couldn't say that it works with all action cameras because there are so many of them, some are bigger, some are smaller and so on. So most action cameras these days have image stabilization, and the image stabilization works decent, but if you start running, if you are in a car, if you start climbing stairs and stuff like that, the image stabilization from an action camera is not gonna do that well. That's when you get a 3-axis gimbal, because with a 3-axis gimbal you can run, you can be in a car, you can go up the stairs, you can go down the stairs, and the footage is always gonna look super smooth. What you're seeing now is recorded with the Yi 4K Plus action camera, and of course using the Yi Action Gimbal, and that's why everything that you're seeing is super smooth. So it doesn't matter if you're running, doesn't matter if you're in a car, doesn't matter what you do, the footage always looks very smooth. And we're gonna start with a very quick unboxing. So the gimbal comes in a fairly big box. On the front of the box we see a picture of the gimbal, and turning the box around you can see some of the specifications. Of course, inside the box you're gonna find the gimbal itself. You're also gonna find the charging cable, and this is a micro USB charging cable. We also have the user manual, and the user manual is in English and it's got a lot of important information, so definitely check it out because it's gonna be useful. The Yi Action Gimbal has Bluetooth connectivity, and that's great because you can control the action cameras from the gimbal itself. You don't actually have to touch the action cameras, and we also have a 1700 mAh built-in battery. Now on one charge you can go for about 6 to 8 hours, but it really depends how you use the gimbal, but I was able to get about 6 hours and a half on one charge. The gimbal is made out of a combination of plastic and metal, so the bottom part, the one that you're holding with your hand, it's made out of plastic, and the top it's made out of metal. We also have a 1/4-inch screw hole at the bottom of the gimbal, and that's great mostly if you plan on putting this on a tripod or on anything like that, because that's gonna be great if you're doing time lapses or if you wanna mount this on a bicycle or something like that. So that 1/4-inch hole at the bottom, it's definitely useful. As I mentioned earlier, the gimbal has Bluetooth connectivity, and you basically connect to the gimbal to the camera's Bluetooth, and this way you don't have to touch the camera. And that's why you have some buttons on the gimbal so you can start and stop recordings right from the gimbal. The pairing process takes about 20 seconds. You basically turn on the gimbal, then you turn on the camera, you turn on the Bluetooth connectivity from your camera, and then the camera will find the gimbal and connect to it. And it's that simple. It literally takes 20 seconds. We also have a little joystick that allows you to move the camera to the right, to the left, up or down, depending what you are filming. But aside from that, we have 4 modes. The first mode would be the selfie mode. So basically if you press the M button twice, the camera will turn towards yourself, and that becomes a selfie mode. So if you're filming yourself, that's definitely useful. When you're done filming yourself, you press that button twice again, and then the camera returns to the original position. The next available mode is the pan mode, and you're gonna notice that you're in the pan mode whenever the LED is green. So in this mode, the gimbal will follow your movements to the left or to the right. So if you turn your hand to the left, the gimbal will slowly go to the left. If you turn your hand to the right, the gimbal will slowly turn to the right. And this is probably one of the modes that I use the most. I mean, it really depends where you are and what you're doing, but this is probably one of the most useful ones. The next mode is called the lock mode, and you're gonna notice that this mode has the red LED. So basically when you enter the lock mode, the camera will stay locked on one position. So let's say that you are running or that you are walking, but you want the camera to film a certain building or a certain event or something like that. You can just enter the lock mode, and this way you don't have to look at the camera. The camera is gonna stay pointed in the exact same position. In this example, I had the camera pointed at that bridge that you can see far away there, and I was basically walking without looking at the camera, because sometimes you can't look wherever the camera is looking because there are people, traffic and so on. And as you can probably see, the camera stays pointed in the exact same position and you don't really have to do anything. For the second example, I had the camera pointed at that other bridge, and I was walking backwards, and this way I could actually turn my head to see where I'm walking, and the camera would stay pointed in the exact same direction. So this is definitely useful if you can't always look wherever the camera is looking, and this way you're not gonna lose whatever you wanted to record. The last mode is called the pan and tilt mode, and this one has the blue LED light. Now with this mode the camera will follow you to the left, to the right, up and down. Now I don't find this very useful, and I do recommend that you record at 60 frames per second if you're using this mode, because well, the camera is gonna move basically everywhere you move. So if you're looking at the sky, the camera will look at the sky. If you look down, the camera will look down. If you spin around, the camera will spin around. So definitely a lot of movement, and maybe not as smooth as the other modes. But for some people this may be a useful mode, so you can show everything around you. And this of course is an example filmed with the pan and tilt mode. So having one of these 3-axis gimbal for your action camera could step up your filming game quite a bit, and you can get some of that cinematic look in your videos. Now I love this one because I can use the E4K Plus at 4K at 60 frames per second, because that doesn't have image stabilization, and this way I can get smooth footage for 4K at 60 frames per second, which is pretty awesome to do. So there you have it. I'm gonna keep this gimbal because as I said, I can fit a whole bunch of action cameras, and as you know, I do try a lot of action cameras, so this is gonna be a very useful tool. And plus I can use it for any project from now on, because I'm using the E4K Plus, which films very well. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, don't forget to press that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.